Hey folks, Mike Johnson here. If it's got wheels and an engine, you're in the right place. On this channel, we dive into car repairs, maintenance tips, and everything you need to keep your ride running smooth. If you're into cars and want to keep learning, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. All right, enough talking. Let's get into it.
There are a variety of electronically controlled suspension systems. Many of these systems use air springs and an air compressor to raise and lower the vehicle. A control module, computer, and sensors regulate the compressor. It's not uncommon for an air suspension compressor to fail. Often, the failure is due to a leak somewhere in the system that overtaxes the compressor and causes it to burn out. If your compressor isn't working, it's a good idea to do some diagnostic work to make sure that the compressor, rather than a circuit problem, is to blame. How to test an air suspension compressor. The steps involved in testing an air suspension compressor vary according to vehicle and system design. The information below is generic and for entertainment and educational purposes only. Be sure to follow the factory repair information for your specific application. You can read more about accessing quality repair information in this article. With that in mind, let's discuss the steps in a typical air compressor troubleshooting strategy. Check that the compressor isn't working. First of all, check that the compressor is inoperative. Usually, you can do this by listening for it to light up. Depending on the vehicle and system design, you may need to perform some type of action, such as adding weight to the rear of the vehicle, to engage the compressor. If you don't hear the compressor running when it should, either the compressor is faulty, or there's a problem somewhere in its control circuit. A typical air suspension compressor wiring diagram. Check that the compressor is powered and earthed. Once you've checked that the compressor isn't working, you need to find out why. Is the compressor defective, or is a circuit problem preventing it from working? To find out, you'll need a digital multimeter, DMM, and access to repair information that includes factory wiring diagrams. Then you can carry out the steps listed below. Tip: you can also test the compressor by jumping it with flying leads or a power probe. Put on your safety glasses. Consult a repair manual to determine which terminals are connected to the compressor's electrical connector. Using a digital multimeter to ensure that power is reaching the compressor. Test the supply side of the circuit as follows. Set your digital multimeter to the DC volt setting. Disconnect the electrical connector to the compressor. Switch on the ignition and make sure the vehicle is in a condition where the compressor would normally run. Connect the meter's negative wire to a good ground. The battery's negative terminal works best. Connect the meter's positive lead to the power supply terminal on the harness side of the compressor connector. If you see the battery voltage, or close to it, on your meter, the supply side of the circuit is intact. Using a digital multimeter to ensure compressor continuity with ground. Next, test the ground side of the circuit as follows. Make sure the vehicle's ignition switch is OFF. Set your digital multimeter, DMM, to the ohm setting. Connect a 1 meter cable to a good ground. The battery's negative terminal works best. Connect the other meter wire to the ground terminal on the harness side of the compressor connector. A reading other than out of range, OL, indicates that the ground side of the circuit is intact. If you find that both sides of the circuit are intact during the test, but the compressor doesn't work when it should, then the compressor is probably faulty and needs to be replaced. On the other hand, if you find a problem with the compressor control circuit, you'll need to trace the wiring diagram and carry out further tests. A problem with the supply side of the circuit may indicate a faulty relay, a blown fuse, wiring to connector problems, or a problem with the suspension control module. Meanwhile, a problem with the ground side of the circuit usually indicates damaged wiring or a poor connection. How to test an air suspension compressor relay. Many people also want to know how to test an air suspension compressor relay. You can test the compressor relay with a fuse jumper. Be sure to take all necessary safety precautions if you decide to try this method. Again, the information below is generic and for entertainment and educational purposes only. Be sure to follow the factory repair information for your specific application. Tip: you can also test the compressor relay by swapping it with a relay of the same design from another of the vehicle's circuits. Put on your safety glasses. Consult a repair manual to determine the relay terminals. Remove the relay from the electrical distribution box. Bypass the relay by connecting a fused jumper wire between the terminals on the electrical distribution box for the switch, output, part of the relay. If the compressor operates with the relay bypassed, the relay is probably faulty and needs to be replaced. It's also possible that there's a problem with the control side of the relay circuit. So, if replacing the relay doesn't work, you'll need to check the circuit. In conclusion, testing an air suspension compressor is a straightforward process that can save you time and money in the long run. By following the steps we've outlined, checking for leaks, measuring pressure, and ensuring proper operation, you can determine the health of your compressor and address any issues before they escalate. Regular maintenance and testing not only enhance your vehicle's performance but also contribute to a smoother and safer ride. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more helpful automotive tips and insights.